Okay, we're given a quadratic demand function and a quadratic supply function. Our goal on this is to find the equilibrium quantity. We'll actually find the entire equilibrium point, then the producer surplus, and finally the consumer surplus. So let's get started. To find the equilibrium quantity, we want to find when are these equal. So I'm going to go ahead and set these functions equal to one another. Now in order to solve this down, I want to go ahead and get all the x's on one side. So I'm going to add 0.2x squared in our case over to the right hand side to try to get all the x's on one side. As we combine our like terms, the 819.2 will be isolated on the left hand side, and we'll have 0.8x squared over on the right hand side. To further get x by itself, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 0.8. because it was attached with multiplication. So as we multiply and divide by the same thing, they'll go away, or create a 1 really. All right, next on the left hand side, as we divide that out, I'll get 1024. And finally, to get x all by itself and get rid of that square, we'll apply a square root to both sides. So it works out that x is going to equal 32. And that's going to be our quantity, thus answering the first question. I'm going to designate that with Q star because our equilibrium point would be Q star P star is how our book designates this. And we're going to need that for producer surplus and consumer surplus in a second. So to find those values, what we can do is we can substitute or evaluate this x equals 32 into either one of those functions, and they should give us the exact same result. So I'm going to use the supply function because it looks just a little bit easier. I'm going to plug that 32 in for the x, and I got this to come out to be 614.4. So 614.4 would answer the question for the price at our equilibrium point. All right, again, I know we were only asked for the equilibrium quantity, that would be 32, but we're going to need both the quantity and the price for our equilibrium point to answer these next questions. Okay, next up, let's think about our producer surplus. So producer surplus is when we go ahead and calculate the quantity of our equilibrium point multiplied by the price of our equilibrium point, and then we're going to subtract off the integral from 0 to our quantity, 32, for our equilibrium point, of our supply function, so 0.6x squared dx. All right, from here, let's go ahead and solve this down. So 32 times 614.4 works out to be 19,660.8 minus, let's go ahead and integrate here. So we'll bring the constant along. We're going to use the power rule, so we're going to increase our exponent by 1, so make that a 3, and divide by our new exponent. Now this gets evaluated between 0 and 32. So 19,660.8 minus 0.2, and then I'm going to put a big set of parentheses as we evaluate this. 32 gets filled in for the x cubed minus 0.2, and then we fill in the lower bound, the 0, and cube it. Now as we have that 0 filled in, all of this becomes 0, which actually makes our computation a little bit easier. So we'll have 19,660.8 minus 0.2 times 32 cubed. I just put this all into my calculator at once and ended up with 13,107.2, and that would be in dollars for the producer surplus. For consumer surplus, let's go ahead and set that up and solve it down. Consumer surplus is going to be when we take the integral from 0 to our equilibrium quantity of 32, but this time we're going to use the demand function on the inside here. So 819.2 minus 0.2 x squared dx, and subtract away the equilibrium quantity multiplied by the equilibrium price. See how we needed that computation anyway, so that's why I went ahead and did it at the beginning. All right, next let's go ahead and work this out. So I'm going to use the power rule to integrate. So 819.2, we'll put an x with that part, minus 0.2. Now we're going to increase our exponent by 1 and divide by that new exponent. Evaluated between 0 and 32, minus a familiar number coming up here, 19,660.8. From here, let's go ahead and fill in the 32 and the 0 are bounds of integration. So 819.2, we'll fill in the 32, minus 0.2 divided by 3, we're going to fill in the 32 and cube it, minus our lower bound, 819.2, fill in the 0, minus 0.2 divided by 3, 0, and cube it, minus 19,660.8. Now again, as we filled in the 0, it works out pretty nicely that all of that becomes 0. So basically, adding or subtracting those zeros goes away. So we don't have to worry too much about that part. But then as we finish this up, maybe get it into our calculator, this all works out to be 4,369.07. And that'll be in dollars. All right, so I hope this helps out as you're working on figuring out producer surplus, consumer surplus, and finding the equilibrium quantity when you have some quadratic functions given to you. Good luck.